of the city council.
Authenticator's on.
Put on the event page.
But you should, you
Yeah,
can download the app if you
You
want,
don't
but
have
I
to do
don't
that.
think it'll require you to do it.
you don't have to do that.
Eventually, we'll have to get to the,
We'll talk about it.
so we're paying for it? It should just come with Office 365.
All right, y'all ready? We're live? We're hot? Okay. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:03 PM. And we do have a quorum present, all members minus this, Miss Vicky. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for just allowing us to join tonight. Father, we ask that you just be with each and every one of us, keep us on task and keep us in order. And Father, just let us make good decisions for the city of Bartlett. Father, we ask that you be with Vicky tonight if she's under the weather. Just get her well and keep her well. Father, we do ask that you please send us some rain this week. Father, we need rain bad. So we're desperate for rains. So it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right. No one signed up for citizens communication. So we'll move on to the boards, commissions, committees, presentations, proclamations. Cemetery committee.
There's still a lot of trees being trimmed out there lately. We've got everything pressure washed and scraped, ready to paint the whole fence now. So I'm just going to try to get hold of a paint sprayer and from my painter, and he's going to start painting. We were hoping this weekend for sure, but if it rains, it just depends on if it rains or not. And also, one thing I need to mention that for some reason somebody's dropped off a mattress out there too. I don't know why they're doing that, but we're gonna have to figure out a way to where we can pick it up or put it or wherever. So
I want to watch the stargazers in the cemetery. We'll create a work order for the city guys and just go pick it up and we'll dumpster it. Tyner Memorial Library Board monthly update. Anyone?
From what I heard, they did not have quorum at their last meeting, so no update.
MDD, I think it was the same thing, right?
Yes.
We need more volunteers, people. Parks and Facilities Committee monthly update. You got anything, Weaver?
Yeah, we, pretty much everything is pretty much just where it is right now. And the pool, we need to get over there and get it winterized sooner than later, just so we don't have an issue. So I'll get with Steven, we'll run over there and kind of show him the process of how we do that, get that taken care of.
Good deal.
We just started doing some cleanup and repair of the sewer plant building out there. Getting a bunch of the old junk out of there and sorting it out and separating the tools and the good, bad stuff. And we'll put some ceiling tiles and clean it up here in the next week or so to get that finished up so it'll be presentable.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we have a distinguished citizen award tonight? I don't think we do we? No. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Receive monthly department reports.
Happy to answer any questions on what y'all have in there, or y'all can approve it in one motion, the entire consent.
We do have item number 6 is received monthly department reports. They're broke down. Item number 7, approved minutes from the following meetings. 8/7/2023, 8/14/2023, and 8/28/2023. So that's all in your packets. We just need one motion, unless you want to pull something out to discuss, but we can take one motion to approve the entire consent agenda.
I'll make the motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Weaver's made a motion to approve the consent agenda as is. Gail Jones has seconded. All in favor? Carries 4-0. No public hearings tonight. Item number 8, regular agenda. Consideration and possible action to approve a contract with Douglas David to lease approximately 10 acres out of farm number 5543 for 2024 crop season. We do this every year this time. City owns 10 acres out here next to the Becky Caldwell baseball fields, and we have leased it out to this gentleman for, do we have the fee? I think last year was it
500 a year.
$500 or $600 a year? Something like that, yeah. So it's not like a moneymaker, but it's something.
So it cleans it up.
Cleans it up. Yep, we don't have to mow it. So just need a consent, just need a motion on that if y'all so choose, or
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Jones has made a motion.
Douglas David.
Mr. Jones has made a motion with Shelton Gilmore second. All in favor? All against?
Just favor.
You 4 or against? 4? Okay. Carries 4-0. Item number 9, consideration and possible action to approve the fiscal year 2023 audit engagement letter and contract not to exceed $16,000 with Donald L. Alman, CPA. So Mr. Alman was here last meeting. He's the gentleman who has done our audits for the last couple years. We have to do this to engage the engagement letter for him to do the 2023 audit. So anything?
And this would get us then caught up with the audit schedule. Typically what happens is as soon as your fiscal year ends for 23, which would be on September 30th, it's coming up, you need to complete your audit within around 6 months is best practice. Right now, we've been kind of doing it a year after, and so for us, this is going to be really important because then what we'll have is an accurate reflection of our ending balances for our funds that would help staff with the development of the budget for FY25 next year.
The sooner we can get this into him, the sooner he can start on it once the fiscal year's over, before we get into federal tax season, because he gets pretty busy those couple of months doing other tax stuff. So the sooner we can get this to him, the best will be to get it returned. So just need a motion, if so.
I'll make the motion that we enter into a contract with Donald L. Alman, CPA for the 2023 budget.
We got a Mr. Weaver motion on the table
Second.
with a Gail Jones second. All in favor? And that carries 4-0. Let me sign this copy.
Yeah.
Moving on, item number 10, consideration and possible action to approve a contract in the amount of $93,050 for engineering services with LCRA to provide a 5-year electric system study, including a pole count and pole numbering.
So this would be a study that's much needed for our electric department. It's essentially kind of a 5-year plan. It would look at the condition of our current system, so looking at the poles, looking at the transformers, everything that we have as our asset, getting that all tracked, doing a pole count, and then doing some pole tagging. And then that would also then move forward with a GIS of our system, so we would actually have a layer that shows what our system looks like. And then from there, it would also recommend some projects and the estimated amount of what those projects might cost to continue the resiliency of our system as this is our cash cow. It's one that we want to take care of. And it's really important that we understand its current state and what we need to get it moving along in the future. So this study is something that LCRA is going to work with us on. The $93,000 that you see, the way that we would finance that is a 5-year plan. So it would be $1,500 or so that is added additionally to our purchase power monthly invoice. So it wouldn't be something that we have to really bite off at one time. It's going to be slowly something that we pay. And it kind of works given that this is a 5-year plan. So for us, that's a financing that would make sense to do with something like this. Because the city doesn't have quite $93,000 to just drop on something like this. So this is something that is much needed. It's going to help us a lot with just understanding our system and what it needs, especially as we look at creating 5-year CIPs for not only the electric system, but also water, wastewater, and then our roads that we have in town. So this is going to be one part of that long 5-year or even more longer capital planning that we need to work on.
What do you say the timing was on that?
5 years.
No, I'm talking about that.
Oh, to do it. I believe when we talked to LCRA, they mentioned that they'd be able to have this wrapped up summer of 24.
So middle of next year.
Yeah, it will take a while.
Yeah. So this is the same thing we did with the water and the wastewater department a couple of years, GIS mapping. And it's already paid for itself twice, maybe 3 times. I mean, compared to paper maps and not knowing anything. Same thing with this electric department. They'll go out, evaluate the poles, condition of the poles, put that on the notes on the GIS. I mean, we're solely dependent on contractors at the moment since we don't have an in-house crew. And so when Mr. Stephen, by the way, this is Stephen. He's a new hire to the city of Bartlett. He's the utilities superintendent. And so whenever Stephen goes out in the field and finds, we have a electrical issue going on in the field, he can go out and get the pole numbers and the details and send that to the third-party contractor and give them all the information, give them the map of the system, the GIS, they'll have access to it. And then that way he doesn't have to come in at 8 o'clock at night or whenever it is and drag them through the whole city, and try to find this out. So, I mean, it will pay for itself rather quickly. Obviously it is expensive, but breaking it out over a 5-year period at $1,550 a month definitely does help.
This was roughly about 3 or 4 weeks worth of tree trimming.
That's on the next agenda item.
Okay.
And so,
Yes, this is the systems resiliency study.
so this is just a system study. We've talked about this 3 or 4 times already. We keep pushing it, but that's back. We kept pushing it back when we had in-house crew.
Right.
Now, I mean, we don't have that. We desperately need to do some stuff here. Y'all have any questions, concerns, or comments?
It seems pretty high until you break it down where it's on the monthly deal that they'll put us out too, so.
Well, in any plan that you ever see that's kind of a master plan of sorts will be around that $80,000 to $100,000 range. And that's, it doesn't matter really if you have a small system or a large system, it's just the amount of work that goes into it, and the engineering time. So for us, that's actually a pretty good deal, especially given that we're gonna have a GIS map that we currently don't have.
That's close to 90,000 up there.
Yeah, Sheldon can tell you more information on this because that's what he does every day, kind of the same thing for another company.
But
But
it'll also help our staff be more proactive. So
absolutely.
as we get the crew, we can then say, hey, here are the projects that were identified. Now, as the administrator, I can actually say what we need to do and then track what is getting done in that department. Whereas right now, we don't really have a clue of what all needs to get done.
Plus, also, if we have development, which we've seen quite a bit of here lately, even on the commercial side, having this GIS and the information of what our lines have and the capacity left on those lines and stuff like that, the amperage, amp load capacity, open, it definitely will help. When they come in to talk to Miss Katie about permitting and planning and stuff like that, then we've got a lot more information for them right up front, and a lot more information on our side that knows that we can say, we can be a little more comfortable on X amount of dollars compared to just a guessing game.
Yeah, and I believe LCRA did say that if there is development that wants to come in, that they would model that for us to understand whether or not there need to be an upgrade to what's currently there in the system, or if the system that's there can handle the capacity that's needed.
So,
We need to come up with a plan too, to, other than just developments, but any changes we make on the system, you need to keep it updated. Because
Yes.
we don't, in 5 years, your system, your map won't be good.
Yeah, we discussed that as well, so that's gonna be something that, as soon as we get those maps, we're gonna be printing them out large scale, and as we're taking poles down or, putting anything in new, we can.
I think that's part of it, is like, I think you can send it to them and they'll update the GIS. And that's something that we're supposed to be doing on the water and wastewater side also. Anytime we do a water line replacement or repair or anything like that, or have an open hole, we're supposed to be taking pictures of those with a device and send them to the MRB, and they're supposed to upgrade our GIS. Obviously, we haven't been doing that in the last couple of months because we don't have anybody to do it. Now we got a man. We just got to get him an iPad or something out there so he can take some photos. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, spot on. I mean, it's
You can buy him a camera.
it's just worthless. Yeah. So that's that. If y'all have any other questions, we'll try to answer them. If not, either a motion or something, or don't have to do a motion. You can bring it back, talk about it, whatever y'all want to do.
I'll make the motion that we enter a contract with LCRA for the engineering services.
We got a Mr. Weaver motion
I'll second.
and a Shelton. We got a Shelton Gilmore second.
He's fast.
All in favor? Okay, carries 4-0. That carries 4-0.
It's a good tool.
It's a great tool.
It's not used to everything.
So item number 11, here's where we're talking about tree trimming, Mr. Weaver. Consideration of possible action to approve a contract not to exceed $50,000 for tree trimming services with McCoy Tree Surgery. Tree Surgery? I think that.
Yeah, that's their company's name.
Cool.
So this would be for, I believe it's 2 week, or 2 to 3 weeks is the $50,000 mark. I think it's actually 3 weeks. So the reason we put a not to exceed is because right now, we don't really necessarily know how much work needs to get done. So the plan is to have them, if approved, come in for 2 weeks, get a lot done, and then see from there whether or not we might need an additional week to have some service. So the tree trimming, especially with the winter coming, and as we all know, everyone's saying that it's going to be a pretty bad one. Given that we haven't had any of our trees trimmed in quite a bit, it's going to be imperative that we get that done prior to the winter, because of the fact that it'll be a service impact if we don't. So you're going to see that if the limbs start to fall on lines, we're going to have some power outages, and utilities that maintain their tree limbs on a regular basis often see that their outages reduce significantly. And so for us, that then reduces the amount of, you look at that 50,000, that may look like a lot, but if you think about how much we're going to be paying Techline to come out and do those service outages, I can probably tell you that's 3 times of them coming in and out, or more. So for us, let's try to be proactive and get something like this done now, ahead of that really bad winter, so that we don't have to have so much of our service reliability coming on, whether or not Techline can get here within that day or not. So that's, especially since we don't have an in-house crew right now.
Yeah, so I think we've all seen enough in the last 3 years with ice storms around here. And the cost of ice storms when the trees lay into the lines from all the weight or fall.
And those mosquitoes are still freeze proof, man, they still around.
But yeah, it's definitely something that we got to do. This is another one of those things where we got to get with our utility director and go out and make sure that we're catching the hot spots. Make a plan before they get here. We need, and they said that they could have their crew foreman come out prior to them coming and meet with the city, drive around and find all the hot spots that we definitely need to cut, that way we're not just, like last time they came, nobody gave them any direction. They basically just camped out right here in this little area. And
Did all this trimming down the streets,
yeah, so it was,
meet them in the back alleys.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Make sure the neighbors know that they're coming or.
Yeah, so, but that's just it. It's something we got to do. I mean, this is, if we don't do anything else, this is what we got to do this year. I mean, it's tree
Require a
trimming.
budget amendment too after we get the.
Yes, so this and the previous item will be something that we'll include in a budget amendment that we can bring back in a few months as we get other items that start to, that way we're not doing too many budget amendments. So in 3 or 4 months, we can add anything else that needs to be added to the budget and amend it.
They're gonna cut as they go for 50, right?
See what?
They're gonna cut as what they can for 50. That ain't the whole city, is it?
No,
That's about,
50,000 is not that much.
it's
Well, I'm just asking because I'm sure if they see it in the newspaper, it's gonna get put on Facebook. So.
It'll be like 2 weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks of time.
actually, it averages $16,517 a week. And so 16, 32, 48.
Yeah.
So that's 3 weeks. It's 3 solid weeks. We should be able to get quite a bit knocked out in 3 weeks.
They cut, grind it, haul it off and everything, so it's clean when they leave.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's hard.
Yeah. And we'll make sure to have a plan, so that's something that's gonna be imperative too, is just getting a plan so that when they get here, they're not having to spend any time doing any guesswork as to where they need to go. We already have it all mapped out, planned out, so it's just, okay, go ahead, and y'all are ready to go.
Have them check in and out here at City Hall.
Yeah.
This last time we had somebody here, all of a sudden you couldn't find them or see them or they're.
Everywhere they trim, we need to service order that, so we have to track it out.
Well, this says total weeks estimated about 62,000, so it'd be 3 weeks. Yeah. That's 4 weeks estimated at 62,000. So there's that. Anything? Bueller?
Another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just asking because I'm sure it's gonna get brought up, like sitting on private property, the trees, those are not gonna get touched. It's gonna be what's in the alley that belongs to the
It's
city.
gonna be the ones that will affect the
Power lines.
power lines,
The amount of money we're spending, they need to just tackle the main feeder.
feeder
Because
lines.
you might get something, well, they cut my tree down. I wasn't planning on cutting my tree. And their trees are ones up on the power line.
If the tree is within so many,
Probably needs to come out.
if it's within so many feet of the power lines, we can cut it.
Supposed to have 10-foot clearance.
10 foot of clearance. So, yeah,
That explanation might need to be put in Facebook or something.
It shouldn't be too hard to explain it in the last couple of ice storms.
exactly. And you would much rather these guys come in and cut it because these guys are like real true arborists, rather than in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. when you got Philip, Chad, and Joseph running around chainsaws cutting up trees in the alleys. You know, I mean, we're not arborists. We're just getting them out of line. So they may have been all the way down at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but these guys are going to cut it around the power lines as you see them do it all over this country. So. Any other questions? Big question. And they said that they also, like, if they drop something on somebody's fence or something like that, damage the fence, they'll repair the fence, bring somebody to repair the fence, whatever. It's all part of the agreement. So.
Needs to be an annual expense.
It needs to be an annual expense. You're absolutely right. I 100% agree.
Yeah, that'll be something that we look at.
Because this-
in the next budget.
I mean, y'all think about it whenever that first Uri hit and we went around for, what was it, 8, 9 days, 7, 8, 9 days, whatever. And basically that's what they were doing. We're cutting down trees, getting to the lines so they could restretch the lines and put the lines back up. $197,000 for 8 days worth of service. So,
Well, and two, you know, even if you cut it back 10 foot, when you have a storm like that, 10 foot doesn't matter.
well,
You still gonna have trees break down, tear your line down.
in Uri, the first tree that fell, in Uri, the first tree that fell was right there by Mark Ritchie's house. And it was 60 feet away from the power line.
Right.
Okay, that tree would not have been cut during this agreement, but you're absolutely right. A tree, we got some large trees in town, and they could be all the way to the backside of that kitchen and fall down and still catch the power line right here. You know, I mean, so you're right,
But you'll have less of it.
but you're gonna have a lot less of it. You're absolutely right. So that's just it. So any other questions or motions or whatever you want to do?
I think that goes, how we, enter a contract with McCoy Tree Surgery for the not to exceed $50,000.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Sorry,
I'll say.
who seconded?
Yes, it is.
Jesse, you seconded?
And George said,
I thought you said it. I did.
okay, good.
All right, Jesse Luna seconded the motion. All in favor? Carries 4-0.
I don't have a microphone.
All right, item number 12, consideration possible action to approve a joint use of pole agreement with Southwestern Telephone Company LLC doing business at AT&T, Texas. Same thing we did a couple weeks ago with Heritage.
This is just a little different because we do have some AT&T, we have some of our poles. It's weird with them because we have, so the joint use agreement essentially is so that we can use each other's poles. Right now, that's what we're currently doing. We just never had a formal agreement. We reached out to AT&T and asked them to do our pole attachment agreement, and that's when they let us know we actually have a shared use of poles right now, and so a joint use agreement would be more in line with what we're looking for. And so what you're seeing here is that agreement. And we had our attorney look over it and we made some changes so that it would benefit the city. But it's essentially what we have already with our agreement, except now it would just also, it does account for if ever there is a need for us to do any kind of replacement, that we would let AT&T know, hey, we're gonna be replacing our pole, would you like to move your service onto this new pole? And then likewise for them. So it's just gonna be something that's mutual agreement between both of us. It's gonna be a partnership. And it's something that we definitely need as we move forward with just being able to hold each other responsible for what's on our lines and then what's on our poles.
So they're not paying us anything, right?
We did put a $12 just like our current, so if they have any new poles that they're adding, then that would be where the payment comes in. So you'll see that on the second to last page.
Exhibit B. So we sent this to Doug right off the bat. Doug looked it through, made a few changes. We sent it back to AT&T. They agreed to the changes. Now we're just to the point of, we put the price in. Just need to approve it. They're saying that there's AT&T poles in town that the city's on. I never knew
Well, I know they claim it.
so it's the first I heard of that, but another good reason for this previous agenda item, a system study on the electric system.
So how many poles do they actually have in town, any idea?
They don't know quite yet. They don't think it's many, but that's gonna be something that they'll do on their part once this is executed.
So do we include that on our pole survey as well?
If it's their pole, I don't believe we would.
But there's, AT&T don't have a tag on their poles, do they?
Some of them do.
Do they?
A lot of them
I
don't.
mean, I know the co-op tag looks like Encore's tag, but
That's something
It's a
we
little,
can ask
it'll
them.
be a little bit square, like 2 by 2 square.
Can we ask them to identify their stuff before we get it on, do an LCRA?
Yeah, absolutely. We can work with them on that. You can see on page 8, division of costs, if there was ever need to do any kind of replacement of poles, just how that is figured out.
If they're saying they're on their pole, they should be able to tell us where they're at.
Yes.
I've seen them play three-phase poles and transform lights on it. That was theirs. We just need to make sure they're on the up and up.
That's just supposed to say. Come out the other way around.
Long maintained and just right here.
Just need y'all have any other questions on this? We just need either, a motion or not.
Make a motion that we get into a contract with, the joint pole agreement with, AT&T.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Mr. Weaver's made a motion with the Jesse Luna second. He was quick on that one. All in favor? It carries 4-0. Still excited about that Cowboy game last night. Still in disbelief. Still in disbelief. All right, executive session, there's no executive session tonight, right?
Nope.
Any future agenda items? LCRA agreement?
Yes, so some future items that so the LCRA agreement, the interlocal agreement that we have with them, it'll be expiring next year. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna work with them to renew, especially since they're gonna be our
DTO,
DTO, our designated transmission operator, there we go. Too many
That's a lot,
acronyms, yeah. And that is moving and underway, so they will be our DTO, and that will be something that will then put us in full compliance with the PUC, every time that we need to do any kind of load shedding. So that's gonna be something that they'll be in charge of for us. And then, other things that we're gonna be looking to bring forward is, right now, the city doesn't have a unified development code from what I can gather. And so that's gonna be something that we'll need to do, is adopt a unified development code. So, there might be an instance where we might create a subcommittee of council to work on some of these things. So one would be the UDC, which is that Unified Development Code. That's essentially setting the standards for what is allowed and regulated within the city. I know our zoning does some of that, but it doesn't go as far as we need it to. So you're gonna see that whereas we bring forward our subdivision code, that's gonna be a big part of that. That's gonna be a big part of it. It's towards that, but it doesn't do it all. So with your UDC, you can regulate how driveways are spaced, you can regulate widths on roads, you can regulate whether or not sidewalks get put in. And so as people are coming in to develop, they can now look at our UDC and we set that this is the bare minimum that you have to follow and adhere to. So that's gonna be something that will allow the city to maintain, and as we grow, a set of regulations and a higher standard of development that we can enforce. And the UDC is the way to do that. So that's gonna be one thing that we'll need to work on to adopt. And then also, one thing that I mentioned whenever we were adopting the budget was that there is a need for a fiscal and budgetary policy. So that'll set forth kind of what the requirements are for myself and the city as we start developing budgets. We also, and then our account balances and whatnot, we can set forth, here's the limits that we have. So if council wants us to keep a 3-month at the bottom of the budget, a contingency, so that we have that rainy day fund, essentially, that's gonna be something that with this policy, we can then enforce. So that's gonna be something if y'all are interested in, just let me know, and that way we can work on who might be a part of that subcommittee of council that'll work on some of these key initiatives, because it's gonna be important that we get these done before next year. A lot of this may take some time, so it might be early next year when we can get to adoption, but it's gonna be key. And then there's other things that may come up that we see that we need to also start, whether it's the multipliers, the CT meters and all of that. And then as we look at doing a rate study, this could be also a subcommittee that we can work with instead of having to wait to bring it to a full council. And then whenever it does come to council meeting, the council then knows that this has been vetted by a majority of its council and that they've worked along with the staff on this project or projects, multiple. So those are the ones I can think of right now off the top of my head.
First meeting of the fiscal year, we need to do the dedicated city newspaper.
Yes. Is that one that y'all are going to want to change?
We still gotta do the agenda item.
Okay.
Currently, it's the local paper.
Yes, I believe right now it is the local paper. And then there have been consistency issues in getting things published, and that provides a big risk to the city if hearings don't get published within the local paper that we've set. So as an example, the budget, the tax rate hearing as well, were not posted in the local paper, even though they were sent to them. And so that provides some risk to the city. Now, it was posted in the Temple Daily Tribune, so we have that. But again, there was risk there. So for us as a city, we need to make sure that what we are using is going to be reliable. And there shouldn't be any doubt whether or not what we're sending is getting posted in the paper so that we meet all of the requirements set forth by state law.
Are there a lot of Temple paper subscribers in our area?
I do not know that.
Do they even deliver here anymore?
The state law, I believe, just says that it has to be circulated in your area, and it is. You can buy it at the gas station. You can get it delivered here. They used to throw it out the window here not too long
They don't do
ago.
that anymore.
I don't know if they still do that or
I
not.
think you can get it in the mail, but it's not good.
Yeah, but
I'm sure we probably have it at the library because I know we have the Williamson
It's-
County Sun.
honestly, it'd be no different than what the actual current, the local newspaper does. I mean, they mail it or you buy it at the gas station.
It's daily.
Williamson County Sun, maybe is another one as well.
It could be.
It could be. Williamson County Sun is one that we may have more readership, but as it relates to posting, the Sun typically requires things to be sent to them 2 to 3 weeks in advance of the actual when you need it by. And so for us, as a smaller community, that's a little harder to come by when we have everything kind of ready. Because often we need something that's a little bit more flexible with us. So like with Temple Daily, you can send it that week and it'll be on that Friday because they do a daily paper. Whereas the Williamson County Sun, I don't necessarily know if theirs is daily. I think it might be weekly.
I think it's week.
So their deadlines are a little different.
Anything else?
Can we make an agenda item on our new electric and water meter change outs as far as how that plan's gonna move forward? Does that need to be an agenda item?
It doesn't necessarily need to be an agenda item. What we could do is bring it forward as a workshop. And I know previously y'all have done workshops a little differently than what I'm used to. So we can do a workshop as a part of this regular council meeting. We just put it forth at the beginning of the agenda. So that way if anybody wants to, if any residents want to have any comment, they can. And then we don't put it on as, because there isn't really any action that's needed, but we could present what the plan is and then list just how we're going to be phasing that in over the next couple of years.
When is Skidmore coming? Tomorrow.
He's actually, we're gonna do it online.
Okay.
9 o'clock in the morning, and then, water department's gonna be installing a couple of water meters here in the next couple of days as well. So we should be able to see how everything is reading, and then get everybody trained up, and we can start. We've got several meters in town that don't work at all now. So we need to go ahead and change those out to the new ones. And then once we determine what that is, then we're going to have to bring in some inventory to be able, as we get new sets, to be able to, continue to move forward with new meters every time we have a new installation.
Yes, sir.
Another thing that we will need to be bringing back is the Texas Water Development Board loan, the $15 million. So development board is going to need some guidance from the city by November so that their board can take action. Now, I know that they reduced the amount that they had in forgivable loans down to $1 million essentially. So that would then leave the city to pay for the rest if we wanted to move forward with that wastewater treatment plant. What I'm working on right now is figuring out a financing plan to make that happen if we wanted to move forward with it. And that'll be presented to you all as well so that y'all can provide staff direction on whether or not you want to move forward with that. So I'll mention pros, cons at a future council meeting, hopefully either the second one in September or early October.
Might be better to have a short workshop on that and then have it on the agenda
Yes.
afterwards. So that's definitely something we need to openly discuss pretty good. Anything else?
I don't know, what's the smiling right here?
I think he's not here.
Playing footsie.
Well, I'd like to, I talked to Chad a little bit about this, but I think we need to come up with some kind of public information policy and a social media policy. Because there's some things going on that don't need to be going on representing the city of Harley.
Yeah, I mean, that's standard for cities to have, so I can look at adopting one and bring it forward. So looking at what other cities have, and that can be something that staff and council has to follow. There's a social media policy and,
Public information. Because during the fire, we had the same problem.
and then, something that's not for a council meeting, but just an update to you all, we will have Heritage Broadband coming, is that their full name, Heritage Broadband?
Something like that.
They will be doing some work over the next month, installing fiber. It's gonna be mostly aerial. So if you see any of their people working on lines or whatnot, that's what it is. They're installing their fiber to do the whole city, and then offer that service.
When you say the whole city, you mean Clark?
Heritage,
I believe they're going through the entire city limits.
Heritage Broadband will be citywide on the fiber
Yes.
and on broadband. So the broadband's a lot like Mr. Falcon Internet's, and then but they will offer in the near future a hard fiber to your house. That's what they're doing right now, is putting the trunk line in, I believe, that goes from AT&T
To the
to their building by the water tower, and then they're going to come in and run their own lines aerial through town, and then they'll branch off of those lines to residences. So
Thank you.
stay tuned.
Well, since I have the floor,
Let's go for it.
I remember hearing something a couple of months ago about, maybe it was something I asked, somebody talked to me, I don't know, about smart meters.
That's what we just talked about a minute ago, Mr. Weaver, the water and
the AMI meters.
the guy coming tomorrow, or doing the online thing tomorrow, is he's the sales rep for the AMI meters. We've already got some.
Now, is that for water or electric?
It's gonna be both water and electric, and it's gonna be on the same system. And we've already got the antennas and everything installed on the water tower down at the prison, correct? No, they're on the
No, they're all on the big tower.
big tower here on the pedosphere. And so our what do they call that? Our system's already installed. It's got a name.
What's that?
The hub, whatever you want to call it. What's that?
Bill was playing the other day, what's the name of it? That computer system. The reason meter.
It's already here.
Oh, the AMI?
The AMI, it's already installed. We just got to get the meters put into the field.
Okay, and I understand that those meters have a benefit for the city, because it eliminates somebody having to run around and
Yes, sir.
read them. But from my perspective, the reason I'm interested in them is because I would really love to be able to put in solar. But it isn't really cost effective to do that unless there's a way to bank the electricity that's generated. And that would be some sort of a software computer system on top of those meters that would allow you to do that.
It'd be something that, you'll be on that meeting tomorrow, right? Maybe you can ask them about, the city's not obligated to buy back anymore. Like if you produce more energy than what you're using, the city's not obligated to buy that energy back from you. Now there are meters that would spin backwards and run backwards. These are digital meters. I don't know if they're going to do that or not.
I'd have to get that.
You'd have to ask, because they may have one that is for solar. It's a different meter for solar attachment, and so we'd have to look at it and see. So it's possible it's there.
Just bring it up again, because I
Yep.
want everybody to think about it.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, no problems. So, anything else, anybody? All right. Need one last motion if there's nothing else.
Oh, he's not here.
Yeah, I guess we're just gonna sit here until Vicky gets back.
There you go, Shelton needs no motion.
Shelton Gilmore, motion to adjourn. Need a second. Gail Jones is seconded.
Vicky said,
Yes, sir. We'll call this meeting at 7:48 PM.
What is that? 35 minutes.
Man, you guys are getting efficient.
You're lucky, you just go till like 8:30.
Hey, I'm gonna push the chair before the car chair.